Well, hello there. This is the Central Florida Computer Society, the Windows Special Interest Group, for Sunday, March 10th, 2019. We meet the second Sunday of every month at approximately 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You're welcome to join us online or welcome to watch the recording from the WinSig website. I'm Huey Poplock, and we've got a full slate of information to share with you today. So let me go ahead and minimize this and bring up our schedule here, or the information, and make it large enough so you can read it. These are the meeting notes from today. They are online on the WinSig website, and that's huey.net/WinSig. Find the date for today's meeting, and the links are all there. And let's take a look at the first one. If you're still using Windows 7, Microsoft is suggesting, let's full page this so we don't have all that stuff in the background. By the way, these ads, I've been looking at some items on some websites, one in particular, and all of a sudden, every GearBest, and every web page I'm going to, they're showing what I was looking at. Amazing. Anyway, we'll close that, but so it's not too confusing. Microsoft has warned that an update coming next month, this was written a couple of weeks ago, is absolutely critical for anyone running Windows 7. Oh, come on. Without it, computers won't be able to use any of the future Windows security and the feature updates, leaving users extremely vulnerable to malware infections or worse. It all has to do with the change in the way Microsoft delivers security updates in a secure manner. Whenever Microsoft releases an update, it comes with a digital signature to prove that it came from Microsoft servers and that the code it contains has not been tampered with. You can think of these security measures much the same way as when you purchase a pain reliever from the supermarket. It comes with the wrap that's hard to get into, just to get into the bottle to get your pills. So it shows it hasn't been tampered with, which means it's safe to use. There are some bogus security updates, and that could mean a rootkit infection. And so the security system is now vulnerable, and you really need to do this update. So the Windows 7 update is a must-have. The problem is not all Windows 7 devices support the encryption, and Microsoft will issue a standalone update for Windows 7 that adds that support. So you want to watch and make sure that you get that update. Users of later editions of Windows 8.1 and 10 won't need to make any changes. Future updates will switch from using SHA-1 to SHA-2 to only using the number 2, but this change will happen behind the scenes as Windows updates automatically roll out. Earlier editions such as XP and Vista will not be affected by the update because these systems are no longer supported by Microsoft and therefore do not receive any security updates. So that makes these systems incredibly dangerous to use. So if you're not using at least Windows 7 and you connect to the internet in any way, you're leaving yourself very vulnerable. If you're using Windows 7, you still are vulnerable, and Windows 7 will no longer even receive any security updates past January of 2020, which, if you think about it, is about 3/4 of a year away. And that's because Windows 7 reaches its end-of-life support at that time. So Windows 7 users upgrade to Windows 10 to keep the security updates coming. And you can still get the Windows 10 upgrade for free with some restrictions. And that's one of the topics I am going to cover today. and how to do that. Oh, updating from Windows 7 to 10, why should you do it? Moving past Windows 7, should you pull the trigger? A few weeks ago, and this was written about a month ago, a few weeks ago, we touched on an idea that Microsoft will no longer support Windows 7 updates in 2020. This led to some users into a frenzy about upgrading to Windows 10 and the costs associated with it. Regardless of how you choose to move forward, and let me make this bigger here so you can follow along with me. First, Windows 10 is newer and has security features as its core. Alternately, Windows 7 is 7 years old. The technology used to develop that operating system does not emphasize cybersecurity. So it'd be a good idea, security-wise, to do the update to Windows 10. And here's how you can still get a free upgrade. And this article was written last October, but as far as I understand, it's still valid. Let's make it big. And here's how you can still get it. Come on, there we go. With all the ads, unbelievable. This is a known issue. Let's see. Anyway, there's some links here, how to upgrade from Windows 10 Home to Windows Pro. I'm getting some music on here because of an ad. Oh, is this one up here? God, I hate that. They're supposed to not automatically start the sound, but sometimes they do. So how to upgrade from Windows 10 to, how to upgrade an old PC to Windows 10, and this tells you how to do it. There's a couple of different ways. Find this article. You have to download the Windows 10 web page. You download the tool, and if you download the media creation tool on the machine you plan to upgrade, and you plan to upgrade one and only that PC, then you can choose to upgrade this PC now, or you can save the installation files to a USB drive or an ISO file and follow the prompts. You should be able to do the update, but take a look at this and make sure that you follow what it says. Get it through the Get Windows 10 GWX app, but it does tell you how to go ahead and get it. And do you still qualify? And I guess that's not a link. But yes, a media creation tool and installation ISO are available. Customers who install Windows 10. If you're installing Windows 10 for the first time, you'll need to enter a valid Windows 10 product key or buy a full version. But it does tell you how you can get around some of that too. But you do have to have a valid install. Okay, should you install the Windows 10 update? So once you get Windows 10, should you be doing the updates? And are they really necessary? Make this bigger if we can. Of course, we got all those ads on the right. You can see what I've been looking at GearBest. Anyway, we won't talk about all of those, but recommended, click here to repair Windows 10 8 problems. Okay, Microsoft rolls out Windows 10 updates regularly. It can be security updates, a significant upgrade, or cumulative updates. Given the problems that Windows 10 updates cause, some people have this lingering question in their mind: should you install Windows 10 updates? Well, no one can be blamed. Microsoft has failed terribly on many of the updates that they've rolled out in the past. But should you update them? The answer is yes, you should. They are critical. A lot of them are security updates and fixes, and you should be doing them on a regular basis. But you can pause them. You want to make sure you turn that back on, so you get them. There are certain times of the day that you can tell it not to reboot. You can pause, defer, or update, delay updates. Pause for 35 days. It can stop all kinds of updates. Can be enabled again once you install the updates. So if you want to wait if you want to wait up to 35 days, you can. You can delay or defer them, but it's then best to go ahead and do the updates. Look for feedback on forums for the latest updates. And in a surprise report, Microsoft seems to roll out the beta updates if they use the get the update button by checking for updates manually. It's always a good idea to update your Windows 10 after a couple of months. Google usually fixes minor bugs and so on. I do go in and check manually if there are updates, make sure that all of my updates have worked. I'll show you what I do, but I'm not going to do the update or check for updates. Hopefully it won't. But when I do the update and security, I last checked yesterday. I am not going to check, but what I do a lot of times is I go to view the update history, and I look to make sure that there weren't any updates that were unsuccessful. And they'll look like, there should be one somewhere here, failed to install. Well, that particular one turned around and it did do the update, and that was the 9342 and 9342 did get successfully installed a few days later. But that's a good way to check and make sure that you are up to date and that all of them got installed successfully. Dick asked if there was a question, is there still a program that checks to see whether your computer can be updated to Windows 10? I believe at the Microsoft website under Windows 10, there is a utility there that you can run. You may have to download it, I don't recall, that will tell you whether your computer will support Windows 10. Generally speaking, if it's running Windows 7, it should run Windows 10. However, there may be, if it's an older computer, there may be some hardware that may not be compatible. There may not be drivers for certain cards or chips that are in your computer. So that's a good thing to check. How to force update Windows 10. And they're saying that you can do it manually. And then you go into PowerShell, and there is a command line that you can use to do it. And it's a WUAUCLT.exe program. And that's a tool. That said, here is a small risk. There's a reason why Microsoft doesn't let everyone download Windows 10 Update on demand. Sometimes the update is only available for computers which have not been reported for any issue. Sometimes there are specific driver issues. When you either follow this method or keep hitting the download button manually, it can even roll out beta updates for your computer. That's Stan's signed up for the Insider, or he's getting the beta, so he already has the 1903 update on the club computer that those of you who are at the meeting, on the computer that's being used to project to the screen, that one's already been updated with a beta version of it. I don't like using the beta on the machine because I like to demonstrate things, and I don't want to demonstrate something that's not going to be the actual the way the operating system works or programs, and pieces and parts of it that are strictly in beta and aren't available to the general public. But that being said, within the next month, the half year update for Windows 10 is due. So if you haven't updated to the 1809 version, you're going to be one whole version behind if you when that happens. And I have not seen any articles that say that you don't have to first put the 1809 version in before you go to 1903. And so at this point, I am not sure. It may say, it may allow you to go directly from an earlier version of Windows 10 to the the 1903, but we don't know that. So you may still have to do that update anyway. Why does Windows 10 update so much? And we'll make this larger. Microsoft says Windows 10 is a service, and the company updates it frequently with security patches, bug fixes, and new features. Updates normally happen automatically in the background, so let's demystify that. Remember, I just showed you this. Check for updates. Windows 10 checks for updates once per day. It does this automatically in the background. It doesn't always check for updates at the same time every day, varying its schedule by a few hours to ensure Microsoft servers aren't overwhelmed by an army of PCs checking for updates all at once. If Windows finds any updates, it downloads and installs them automatically. While Windows 10 does check for updates once per day, it doesn't mean it's installing them every day. Microsoft doesn't release Windows updates every day, so Windows Update will often find no updates available and not install anything. The Defender application, known as Windows Security, also known as that, is an anti-malware, antivirus application built into Windows 10, and it does its own updates as well. So it will update the definition files, sometimes every couple of days, sometimes more often, sometimes less. Like all security applications, the antivirus needs regular definition updates. Driver updates arrive occasionally, and cumulative updates arrive once a month. And out-of-band updates arrive in emergencies, and then the feature updates arrive every 6 months or thereabouts. As I said, it's about to happen in the next month again. So let's see. For example, Windows 10 April 2019 update will add a light desktop theme with new default desktop wallpaper and many other smaller changes, including improved start menu, file search, and low-level improvements that will make Windows 10 run faster. However, these don't always roll out immediately. Microsoft throttles it and tries only to offer your PC an update if the company thinks it will run well on your hardware. It does check your hardware, so you may not get these every 6 months if you don't go out of your way looking for them. For example, Windows 10 October 2018 update still isn't on most Windows 10 PCs at the end of February 2019. And they always require a reboot. They require a much longer installation process, so you'll spend more time staring at a blue screen while the process finishes. The length of the update process depends upon how fast your PC is and the update. Microsoft has been speeding up the installation process over the last few versions. If you see a working on update screen, you will notice that your PC will start several times and Windows is probably installing a feature update. Make sure you're backing up on a regular basis. Don't wait until it's starting to do the update, and especially the big updates. You want to make sure you've got a good backup. And I would suggest the next few days, make sure you have a full backup of your system, so when it goes into the update mode and there's a problem, if there's a problem, you don't lose either some things or everything. Now, speaking of which, let's go to the next item on here. Is what happens if you have to reset Windows 10 computer? Is there a question? No? Okay, I thought I heard something. Okay, what happens when you reset Windows 10? I had to do that on this computer. I went to do an update, and I didn't have enough room on my C drive. My C drive is an SSD card, and it wasn't big enough. So what I had to do was start moving things over to my D drive. And let me show you what I'm talking about here. You'll see here my C drive is 222 gigabytes. Now I've got 83 gigabytes free. Well, I got it down to about 3 or 4 gigabytes free. And then I started moving everything over to my D drive, which is a 1 terabyte hard drive. But what happened was that when I went to do the update, I still didn't have enough room, and it wasn't letting me do the update. So I actually took my computer into the Microsoft store here in my area, which is in Sarasota. There is, I believe, 2 of them in the Orlando area. And in those of you who are sprinkled around the country, look and see if you have one near you. They do this for free. They'll do the update if you're having issues. If they have to back up, they do charge you for the backup, but to do a lot of the standard fixes and so on, they don't charge you. You do have to set up an appointment with them. Anyway, they had to do a reset. And when you do a reset, one of the things it will do, resetting will remove all your apps and programs that didn't come with the PC. It will change the settings back to their defaults, and it'll reinstall Windows without removing your personal files. In other words, my data files were all there, but it was going to take any of the programs I had installed, and they would no longer be available. And this will take a while, and your PC will restart. Well, you know, if you got a lot of programs on your computer, you better make sure you know which ones you have. Well, one nice thing about the reset, one of the choices is Windows 10 Reset, keep my files. If the computer is not working as expected, and you should choose, and this is what you choose, it will do the following. Reinstalls Windows 10 and keeps your personal files. Removes apps and drivers you installed. Eliminates changes you made to the settings and excludes any apps your PC manufacturer installed. Now, when you do that, what it's going to do, one of the windows is going to be your apps will be removed. And it says many apps can be reinstalled from the store, but the following apps will need to be reinstalled from the web or installation disks. This list will be saved to the desktop after you reset this PC. What you need to do is take a piece, there's no way you can really screen capture this that I'm aware of. So what I did with a piece of paper, I started writing down all of the programs that it said would be removed. And then most of them that I wanted to keep, after it reset, I reinstalled. So number one, you want to make sure whichever ones show up in this list, you write down in a list. Then make sure you have your code or your serial number or whatever information you need to install that again. It's probably going to be an email address, your serial number, or whatever they call it, serial code, and then reinstall it and put those in. Please make sure you do that. If you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to be plumb out of luck if you don't have any of that information available. Sometimes you have to go back into the program before you've removed it and get that information from the program. Other times, check your emails. You should be keeping a record of all that information. I use a password manager. The one I use happens to be called eWallet, but there's OnePass and LastPass, and there are several others that many of you use. What you want to do is start putting your applications and their serial numbers and registration information, put them in your password manager. Then you won't lose them.
Huey?
Yes.
Mike reminds you that Belarc Advisor gives this information.
Yeah, Belarc will give you a list of that, usually all of that, but you want to double check it. And you also want to make sure that you write down a list or print out Belarc and then mark down which ones it's going to remove so you know which ones you need to restore. Or I should say reinstall. And it does say that if you got it from the store, they can be reinstalled from there, but you better make sure that if you installed it from the Microsoft Store that you have that in the list as well. It may not show up on this list, from what I'm reading here. So are there any questions or comments on this before I go to the next item? Okay, how to find out the startup item order in Windows 10. What I didn't put on here is how you can find out what you start with. And I'm going to open up the Task Manager on this machine. And in Windows 10, in the Task Manager is your startup. These are all the programs that start up automatically on my computer. I have a lot of them. Sometimes it's just like a stub or a little piece to make it quicker when I start the program. So they're not actually running, but part of them are running in the background, or they're enabled so that I can get to them more quickly. So you'll see that there are several programs here, a lot of programs in my startup. But it doesn't tell me what order they load. And what I found was this article, how to... Windows 10 lets you run any app you want at the system startup. Some apps and quite a few. I'll make this larger again. Boy, GearBest must be paying a ton of money. They're showing up on every one of my pages here. But Task Manager won't be of much help in the order. And so Microsoft has a utility called Auto Runs. And it shows the startup item order. So you download the program, and there's a link to it. And this is what it looks like. Or is this an ad? I don't know. Hang on a second here while it loads. I think this is going to be an ad. No, that's going to be the... There it is. Okay. This is an ad. How do I close it? Boy, these... And it's probably going to start running here. So close it, get it out of there. Nope, that took me to it. That's not what I wanted to do. And there should be a way I can close it. No, that's turn the sound off. Oh, wonderful. I don't even see a way to close that. Anyway, here's, let's see, view in the gallery. Let's try that. See if. This is what it's going to look like. And then it shows you the order in which everything opens with. Well, what I did is I went ahead and downloaded the program. It won't probably is quite as big, but let's go ahead and minimize this. We'll, I think I can close that now. And I am going to open up the AutoRuns program. Let's go ahead and full screen it so you don't have a lot of stuff in the background. But you can see it's going out and finding everything, and then it shows the order in which it loads, but it tells you quite a bit of information as well. The Windows command processor, that it's verified by Windows, where it's located, and then the timestamp of the file, and then something about a virus total. So hopefully those are all empty, and they seem to be. Look how long this list is. And this is all what happens when I turn on my computer. No wonder it takes so long to update. It's still loading things here and changing things, finding things. But you can see there's a lot of information there. What can you do with this, or why do you want it? And if you don't understand all of this and what it can do, don't do it. I'm just showing that it can be done. Those of you who are more advanced, you might want to go in and try to figure out what it's doing. There's check marks here. I don't know what happens if you uncheck those. Does that mean they won't run? If they don't run and it's looking for something, it could hang your system. So please don't go into this and start playing without reading up on what it's doing and what changes you make and what those will cause. But this is all from a whole bunch of additional programs that Microsoft bought and still is updating called sysinternals. There's a whole series of utilities to help people who are a little bit more advanced find information. So if this is something that interests you and you want to read up about it and follow through on it, but the important thing is that it does track what starts up when you start your computer and then in what order. So sometimes things don't work right and you'll get an error message and you'll wonder, gee, what program is that coming from? You might be able to go back into this and try to figure out, you know, like here's an OmniPage preload from the OmniPage Ultimate. It's not uploading, it's not opening the program, it's putting something in memory. So if I start to run OmniPage, it's going to open up quicker. And so there's a lot of things here to lead you to issues if you should have them. So something else to have in your arsenal of tools is called AutoRuns. How are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing good. Yes.
I have a comment about what you're saying. Yeah, it's good to have an idea of what you're doing, but when we were doing our run through yesterday, you said at least 6 times, man, why is this taking so long? And having that many items running in memory is one of the biggest log jams. So that if you were to go through there and take out everything that you don't think is absolutely necessary, I think you would find your machine does run faster.
Yes.
And that check mark, if you take the check mark out and it doesn't run, when you go back to that program after you reboot, you just put the check mark back in there. So you're really not, it will be difficult to do any real damage. So I don't think it's as risky as you're implying.
Okay, well, I say that to protect myself from people who get themselves into trouble and then want to come help, want me to come help them, or want to say you showed me that and it caused a problem. I don't want to be the one responsible. So it's a CYA more than anything. Okay, I am going to skip the next item because there's quite a few items in it, and then if we have enough time, I want to cover more than just one or two. And some of these can go fairly quickly. How to remove Skype from Windows 10 system tray. I'm not sure if you can see my system tray. Can you see it on the screen there?
Yes, but it's small.
Yeah, and I can't make it any bigger, but if you'll notice, I've got Skype in there. And every time I start up, Skype is there. And what this article does, let me go ahead and open it first, and then I'll show you how easy it is to have that not show up. What you do, and it tells you here how to do it, and it's very easy. You just come down to your tray, find the Skype logo, and then right mouse click, and then go to Settings. It also is going to open up Skype, so just bear that in mind that it's going to be open and show that you're online with it. But one of the things here is show Skype in the Windows notification area system tray. By default, that's on. Just shut it off. And then get out of it. Now, when I close Skype, and come down here, number one, it's not there, but it's still open, and you want to make sure that it's closed, and it'll stay closed the next time you reboot. But that's how you show it, so it won't be in that system tray and be a pain in the neck and just be sitting there. So very easy to do, a very nice, easy fix.
Didn't Microsoft buy Skype?
Yes, Microsoft owns Skype too. Yep.
So that's why it's on by default.
Yep. Okay, 4 signs that your computer is about to die. There's some good points in this particular article. And let me make it bigger here. Laptops and PCs aren't cheap. They range from a few $100s to a few thousand. And it's important to us that things that we use them for, work, play, socialize, learn, these activities we do all day long, we want to keep them clean. 4 signs your computer time is almost up. Because our computers are so important, we need to keep them in good shape. But even the most cautious user will have problems. The hardware will simply wears out. We'll look into ways to help you identify what's wrong with your computer so you can either fix it or replace it. Consider your computer's age. It's gotten to the point where now computers last a lot longer than they used to. The one I'm using is about 4 years old, and it's fine for me. And it does everything. And you were talking about the system slow in booting. I've got 16 gigabytes of RAM. So things should handle a lot of that fairly easily and still be quick. But it's still, as I say, it's 4 years old. It's not the fastest chips in the world. There are faster now. So, you know, I might be looking at things could start going wrong with my computer, or I could, I might just, so like it says, so if your computer's over 4 years old, you might want to start saving for a new one. Better yet, start saving right when you get it, so you don't have to scrape together a bunch in a short time. If your computer costs you $400, I wish, make sure you set aside about $100 a year. My computer was quite a bit more because of, number one, I have a 24-inch touchscreen. Anyway, of course, the computers on the market these days have modern hardware depending upon what you use them for. Okay, if you've got a strange or a loud sound coming from your computer, just like a car, a computer in good shape should run very quietly. So if you've got some of these sounds, if you got a whirring sound, Anything that spins makes a whirring sound like a fan. In fact, the computer's fans are likely the only sound you'll hear on a laptop that's running fine. The hard drive and the DVD drive can also make a bit of a whirring sound. You might hear the hard drive whir slightly when you start up your laptop, and you should hear only the DVD drive working when you have a disk in it. If that becomes louder than normal, has a bit of a grinding sound with it, it's time for fixing. You usually can tell what part of the computer that sound is coming from, so look for anything that spins in that area. If it's a fan, make sure the fan is clean of any dust or debris. You can do this with canned air and a soft link-free cloth. Please make sure your computer is not only off, but unplugged when you do this. And if you're using the canned air, make sure that any moisture that, because of the cold air coming out, then make sure that it's dry before you turn on your computer. Microfiber cloths work well. If that doesn't make the sound better, the fan's bearings may be wearing out, or its motor may be having issues. Fortunately, computer fans are inexpensive and easy enough to replace by yourself. Expect to pay around $20 to $40 for a good quality fan replacement. If it's the DVD drive, again, dust is the likely culprit. First, check your CD, DVD, or Blu-ray disc. If it's damaged or really dirty, it can be off balance and spin like a wobbly tire, making all kinds of noise. If it's the actual drive, clean it using canned air as best you can. You can then wipe it clean with a microfiber cloth. Stay away from the lens. That's the part that actually reads the discs, and there's a picture of it. You don't want to clean it with just anything. There are DVD drive cleaning discs that you could get that come with the proper cleaning fluid. You could also go to a camera store and get a lens cleaning solution. If it's a hard drive, back up your data now. Traditionally, hard drive disks, HDD, have metal plates or platters that spin at amazingly high speeds. There's an arm or a head on it that moves back and forth, and there's a picture of it. And that arm moves back and forth, and the disk is, and sometimes there are several disks, or more than one disk anyway, that goes back and forth over the disk to read and write to them. That head and arm should never touch the disks. If you hear anything other than the spinning sound that your hard drive normally makes, something is touching those disks. When it touches it or scrapes it, it destroys any data stored in that spot. Back up your data and get a new hard drive. It's also a good idea to check the health of your hard drive every once in a while, even if there's no weird sounds. If you have a solid state drive, there are no moving parts, so you shouldn't hear anything coming from it. Clicking sounds are made when two things hit each other with a bit of a force. Again, only moving parts of a computer are the fan, hard drive, and maybe a disk drive. With the fan, it could be that the blades are off balance a bit and touching the sides of its housing somewhere. Or it could be there's bits of debris in the fan that the blades keep hitting. Either way, try cleaning it out first. If that doesn't work, replace it. And here is a picture of what that can look like. Let me come down here to this picture. If your fan looks like this, it needs to be cleaned. Okay, let's come back up here. High-pitched whine, harder to work with. It's probably a capacitor, and probably not. Most repair shops don't replace those. Stan, do you still you don't do any of that anymore, do you?
Well, I used to have Dave Fine who
Yeah.
could replace capacitors, that sort of thing. I guess there are places that do. I don't want to take a laptop apart anymore. It's just too complicated and too hard getting all the parts back where they belong. But there are places where you usually can find somebody that will do it.
If your laptop won't turn on, one of the good places to check first is your power supply. That can go first before your computer, so it may not. Check the entire length of the power cord. If there are nicks or scrapes, it may be exposed and shorting out. There's a huge safety hazard that can cause a fire, so replace any wires. And then there's a laptop battery troubleshooting guide as well. If the computer turns off without warning, it can be from a fan that's not getting, that's not working right and heats up the CPU, and that can shut it down. It could be check the power cable to make sure it's plugged in, the power supply to make sure that it's working and the cables are in good shape. Using canned air, blow out all the dust in the computer. If you're able to open your computer to do this, that's even better. Laptops, you generally can't. I love this paragraph. Computers don't die, computer parts die. The two big lessons here are that computers don't completely die, and maintenance is important. It's normally a hardware component that goes bad. It's your decision, though, whether replacing the part is worth it or not. A good rule of thumb is that if the repair costs more than half the price to replace the computer, or the computer is over 4 years old, it's probably best to replace it. Good rule of thumb. Let me jump to this one, then I'll come back to the one previous, and then I'll go to the one big one. Microsoft is rolling this out. It's an Excel tool that turns phone pictures into spreadsheets. So if you've got a chart, you can take a picture of it using your phone, and then you're going to be able to insert the data from a picture. And it's going to have, let's see if I can find the maybe it wasn't this article. There's going to be, in Excel, there is going to be a choice now where you can say insert from picture, and it's going to insert the data from the picture. I tried it on mine and it's not available. Apparently it's going to be either in the next big update to not only Office but Windows, or it's going to be coming out soon. It's not available. It's still in the test mode, so people who are testing these things are seeing it, but those of us who are not in the testing mode don't. But I think that's going to be, if you see a chart or something, you can take a picture of it with your camera, save that picture, and then bring it into Excel, and it will actually put it into a spreadsheet in an editable manner, which I think is going to be a very useful tool for those of you who do that sort of thing. Where if you see something and you want to create your own chart, you've got to type it all in from scratch. This way you'll be able to do it from from a picture. Speaking of pictures, what pictures can you use in your newsletters, on your websites, on Facebook? What are you allowed to use legally? Well, you gotta, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean you can use it. And this website has a great infographic, and the article is, it's going to be hard. Let's see if I can bring it up here. Let's see what happens. You can download it, and you can also purchase it. But it also talks about what is a copyright. How do you obtain a copyright? How do you use a picture that I don't have the copyrights for? Because a lot of times, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean you have the right to use it. Can I purchase the rights to an image, or can you get permission to use a photo? And then what about Creative Commons? And what is it? And let's see if I can now get to the chart. Here it is, and this basically says, do you own the copyright? And it actually gives the how, let's see, can I make that bigger? Yeah, good. Did you create the picture yourself? You say yes or no. No, you didn't. Okay, did you get permission from the owner? Did you get written permission? And you say no. Did you purchase the right to use it? No. And then if you say no, then it goes to the top of the next column. Is the image licensed with Creative Commons? In other words, you go through a whole series of answering yes or no. If the answer is yes, then it gives you some answers of what you can do. It's a simple way of resolving whether you can actually use that picture or not. And just because you do a presentation and it's only going to be for a certain group of people, that picture still can get out. So a lot of times you can't just use somebody's cartoon from one of the cartoon websites, especially if you're recording it and then posting it on YouTube like I do a lot of my presentations. I can't just use any picture because I could be in violation of somebody's copyright. So I have to be very careful. Now, all of what I'm showing you here, I'm giving you all of the where that is. I am actually showing you the website that it comes from, and I'm giving their information. So I should be okay, I hope. And but it's a place for you to go and see if you have the rights to use that picture.
That's very similar to what goes on with music as well, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Somebody commented earlier they liked the tune that I use. Well, I found a website that has some royalty-free music, and that's what I use for the to check for the sound when I'm waiting for these Windows SIG meetings to start. I play some music in the background, and it's something that's royalty-free that I can use, and it's from a fellow by the name of oh gosh, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he has a number of tunes that you can go out and download and use, and that's one of them. Okay, 30 common Windows 10 annoyances and fixes, and the list of them are here. Let's see if we can get them all on screen. It looks like close to it anyway. Anyway, number 19 is the one that I did clip and put in the newsletter. Choosing your startup apps is in the Windows SIG newsletter letter for this month. But there are several good articles here. Shutting down without updating. Have you ever had it where it wants to update when you shut down? Always wants to install on your PC just as the moment when you're doing a quick shutdown and restart your computer. Fortunately, there's a command that you can use to shut down in peace immediately and prevent the updates from being installed. Get started, save any files you're working on, close all open programs. Then press the Windows key plus the R key, so Windows and the R key combination to open up your run dialog. Type in command and then type in shutdown/s space/f/t space 00. And when you do that, it will work around it. Alternately, you can use the power button to shut down your computer. You can, again, the Windows R key, and type power cfg.cpl to open the power options. Click choose what the power buttons do and select shut down for when I press the power button and save changes. Now, instead of using the shutdown option from the Windows 10 Start menu, you can press the power button on your computer to get Windows to shut down without installing updates. And then you can manage the Windows updates. And there's active hours. Set the active hours to let us know when you typically use this device, and we won't automatically restart your device during that time. Manage the Windows updates, stop Windows updates, fix a stuck update, sharing your updates, stop sharing them, enable system restore, reboot to quickly to safe mode. The good old safe mode in Windows is a lifesaver, but the path to this option is convoluted through settings. Luckily, there's a quick way to get around it, and that's by pressing the WinR key again, and then typing msconfig to open the Windows configuration panel. Switch to the Boot tab and tick Safe Boot. So if I do a Windows R, it's down here. And if I type in msconfig, and say OK, and then you go to the Boot tab. I know it's very small, and I'm sorry. There's no way I can really make that bigger as far as I know. And then you can go to and go to Safe Boot. Just tick that. And you can do minimal, alternate shell, Active Directory repair, or network. I'm going to tick it off so I don't do it by mistake. And then a no GUI boot, which means no graphical interface boot. It's going to be strictly text, a boot log, and so on. So there's some things that you can turn on and off, timeout, and so on. And then hit OK, and then reboot. And when you reboot, it will come up in safe mode. Yeah, here it is. Here it is in a larger. So you go to the Boot tab and then click on the Safe Boot. And it works best for the occasional forays into the safe mode. But if you go there regularly, you can use something called WinArrow Tweaker to create safe mode shortcuts and place them somewhere on your computer. So let's go back to that list. See all of your devices. This one's fairly easy. Let's open it in a new tab so I don't have to keep going back. You bring up the device manager, which shows all your connected devices and lets you manage them. So all your hardware devices should show up here. So anything that's connected to your computer should show up. And if it's not there, then you've got an issue. And sometimes you can fix issues by seeing them and then going into their various ones to see what's under them as well. Using your keyboard as a mouse, if you're interested, they show you how to do that. Control sync settings, choose your startup apps is the one we talked about. Stop annoying notifications, block window ads. That's the Windows ads, not the website ads. Fix slow boot issues. Stop auto-updating drivers, destroy Windows 365 advertisements. Easily switch features on and off, get Windows Photo Viewer back, modify the send to options, change the default applications, avoid excessive data charges, and tame Cortana are all choices of some Windows annoyances and fixes from this web page. And I do have one article about Notepad versus WordPad, but I don't think I have enough time to get into that, so I won't. If you're not using either of those, you should. I use Notepad much more than I use WordPad. It's a text editor, and the biggest thing I like about it is when I have a whole bunch of things like this, let's say that, and I do a Control-C to copy it. Now, if I went into WordPad or Word and did a paste, I got it set so it doesn't show up, but it's not quite what I want. If you open up Word or the Google Docs, or if you're using the other free Office programs and so on, when you go into them and open a new document, do a paste, it's going to look like this. And that's not, I may not want that. I may just want the text. So if I open it up in my text editor, which is Notepad, and then let's see, I've got it set for the very large, so we'll bring it back down because everything is always one size. So we'll bring it back down to 12. We'll say, okay, I'll make this somewhat bigger. And now when I paste, it's in the order, but the dots at the beginning are gone, and they are each on a separate line, which is nice. And then I can copy and paste them back into something and do the formatting in that instead of using the formatting where it came from. To give you another example of that would be, let's see. Let's come back here. And let's take this. Come on. Let's do a quick copy there. We'll go into Word. We'll wipe this all out. And we'll say Control V. And you'll notice it's different fonts, different sizes. And when I do that in Notepad, we'll get rid of all of this. And then we'll paste. And you'll see the straight text without any formatting except the sentences in the sentence format or by line. And it's easily then transferred into something that I want to then utilize for something else. So that's how I use Notepad. I use it quite often. As you can see, I have it on my taskbar because I do use it that much. Okay, any questions?
Looks like not.
Okay, let me see if there's anything. Let's see, somebody said Revo uninstaller would also list. Belarc, okay, that came from a couple of you. And I don't see anything online. So let me minimize this, bring this back up. Full screen it. And say that does it for the March 10th, the Windows SIG. Thank you for joining.